Hello, my friends. Are you feeling lost in the financial wilderness of the day and age in which we're living in? Let Revo Financial be your guide. Listen, even Moses needed some help in the wilderness. He needed a little direction. Let Revo Financial help guide your financial path. Check them out at revofinancial.com. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the Caleb Gordon Podcast. I'm your host, Caleb Gordon. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to be a part of the program today. I sit down with Pastor BJ Newman. He is in Ohio. He is on the ground. And I find it odd that during the debate, it was brought up that immigrants are eating cats and dogs and geese. And what I saw the look in Vice President Kamala Harris's face. They looked for an opportunity to mock this. This whole thing it become a mockery. There's songs out. Like some of these songs are catchy, funny songs, and I just got to thinking, this is what the media does. The media takes what is genuinely happening and twists it on its head. I am sitting down today with Pastor BJ Newman. He is in Ohio. He's on the ground. He wrote a lengthy article about what's happening in the town that is being reported about. And when the national media says things like, "Oh, that's not really happening. Don't worry about it," you probably should believe something different. If MSNBC or CNN came on, or even Fox News comes on and says, "Hey, listen, the sky is blue," you should probably go outside and just double check for yourself. That's what I've decided on for my life. But I want you to listen to this conversation, and I want you to hear what's actually happening from somebody who is in the town, a pastor, a trusted pastor, not just some TV evangelist, but this is a trusted pastor who is on the ground, who's loving and shepherding his flock in Ohio. And I think you're going to be fascinated to find out the truth of what is actually happening. I pray this conversation encourages you, educates you, and spurs you on for this week. Love y'all. Welcome to the Caleb Gordon Podcast, Mr. BJ Newman. How are you doing, my friend?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on.
Fantastic. Okay, so you write an article. So you're a pastor, correct?
Yes, sir.
So you and I have never met. This is our first time meeting and having a conversation here on the podcast. And we have a mutual friend, and the internet's weird. We have mutual friends on the internet, Michael Foster, and he shares your article on his platform. And it just like that, his stuff blew up overnight. He got to the point where Megyn Kelly's following him online, just weird stuff. The internet's crazy. And this article you write about immigrants coming into your town in Ohio, and basically all this gets blown up because Trump during the debate says they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, and there's been insane songs and memes and all the crazy stuff that goes with this. Is what he said true?
Well, I happen to think there's very good reason to believe that it is true. What it was really behind it was I actually just shared a brief little Facebook post. I have worked with Michael over the last several months to try to do some ministry work together, and it's so just to kind of set the stage a little bit. I live in Xenia, and I'm working on a church plant with him in Xenia, Ohio, Greene County area, which is about 20 minutes south, give or take, of Springfield, Ohio.
Right.
And I'm doing bivocational ministry. So my day job has me in Springfield doing ministry work there. And
sure,
I've been working in one capacity or another in Springfield since 2015.
Right.
So I've got a pretty long footprint there. I know quite a few folks there. And I don't want to overstate my influence in the town. I mean, I'm just a normal pastor ministering to normal folks.
And that's that's what we need. We need more normal pastors. You're not a mega church guy. You're not some sort of a celebrity. You're just a dude. And that's fantastic. We need that.
Well, and so what motivated me to write the post was just, the combination of doing ministry in Springfield, doing ministry in the church plant, and various different times having conversations with folks about the topic of immigration, it
Yeah.
was clear to me that there was some very serious pressure on people who were hurting, who were in one way or another being impacted negatively because of the influx of immigration. And what infuriated me the most is just how much our evangelical elites only lean in one direction.
Come
They
on.
will only say the compassionate position is unfettered immigration. Unfettered immigration. What Jesus are you reading in your Bible? Because he would welcome the immigrant and the
Right.
stranger.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And that conversation is too simple by half. I mean, it's not even
Sure.
close. And so I felt the need to say, listen, let me just share with you a little bit of what I'm seeing, a little bit of what I'm hearing, and a little bit of what I know to be true that is giving you a different point of view.
Yes.
And then the very last line I wrote was something like, it is important that we are compassionate to the immigrants, but it's also important that we are compassionate in the other direction. And right now, the narrative is only pushing in one way. And I just wanted to raise my hand and say, wait a second. No, there's more to this story. And I think the reason that it went so wild, of course, Foster shared it and it got a lot of attention.
Yeah.
And I think the two reasons it got attention, I mean, because it sat on my Facebook post for a couple of days with just some of my normal friends chatting
Sure.
about it.
Yep.
And then Senator Vance starts saying, hey, we're getting flooded with calls in our office about pets and about ducks and geese. And then, of course, Trump jumps in. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the dogs. And so I think that's why it just went wild there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so let me just address the animals real quick and then kind of give you my opinion on it.
Sure.
There have been numerous testimonies from locals, both telling me, hey, I've seen it happen, who have gone to the city council and said, hey, let me just tell you what I'm seeing that's happening. And so all of these testimonies sort of bubbling up from the ground. Hey, this is what's going on. Hey, this is what's going on. Hey, this is what's going on. And then, of course, that's why Senator Vance felt the need to say what he said.
Sure.
And it just simply highlights there's a real culture clash happening.
Yes.
The city of Springfield was a city in the 2020 census just north of 58,000.
Yeah.
And the best numbers we can come up with now on the current immigration situation is that over the last 4 years, 15 to 20,000 immigrants from Haiti, predominantly from Haiti, have moved here, and the lion's share of them have been in the last 5 to 6 months. So this has just been an absolute,
Just
and
wild.
yeah, and it's inevitable. Only a fool would think that you could do that without creating some hardship.
Yes.
And so everybody wants to talk about these animals, and I want to say, guys, what a distraction. We have
Sure.
people that are suffering. We have people that are being impacted in negative ways, and all of the church, the voices of evangelical leadership who are trying to, I think, rub elbows with some of the cool kid elites that
Yes.
all lean left, are saying basically, shut up. The compassionate thing is to take in the immigrants. And I wanted to say, no, there's more to this story.
There's
And
more.
the
Yes.
church talking
Like
about it.
that's the thing that just boggles my mind is we have so many different I mean the impact in your article you wrote there north of $300,000 have been spent to try to get interpreters for the kids that are in the school system. So these kids have just jumped into the school system. And so I mean that's concerning that there's an overwhelming to the teachers, there's overwhelming to the system in general, and there's not an infrastructure. That's the concern that I see,
Absolutely.
more
Yeah.
than the dogs and the cats. And you're right. This is what we've done in the culture is we've elevated the status of animals. We're like, oh, the baby kitties and the dogs and the ducks. Oh, but what about the people? What about the
Yeah.
individuals that are the families that are impacted in this scenario? This is the problem that I see.
No doubt. And I'm totally on board with you. And yes, the schools have been overwhelmed. One school teacher I talked to said that they have so many non-English speaking students and so few translators, in spite of the huge numbers of dollars that have already been spent,
Yes.
that they have iPads that are doing basically Google Translate kind of stuff. And, I'm not a big fan of the public school system
Wow.
myself. I'm
Well,
a
yeah,
strong
neither am
advocate.
I.
of homeschooling and classical Christian schooling. But the reality is, for most people in Springfield, their kids go to the public schools and they expect to have a decent education, and that is being degraded. But it's more than that. It's hospitals. The numbers of tuberculosis and HIV cases have spiked. The hospitals are being, in some cases, overwhelmed. You also are having difficulty with, there's all sorts of traffic issues that are creating problems because, well, the whole situation is complicated, but there are a number of folks who come here who don't know how to drive, who are driving without a license, who are skimming by. In Ohio, you don't, if you're over 18, you don't actually have to take a driver's ed class. You just have to pass the test. And the accidents are piling up. People are feeling unsafe on the roads. And the most tragic story was, of course, there was an accident involving a Haitian who was driving a minivan who went left of center and hit a school bus, and a young boy was killed, and 23 students were injured. And we, as part of my role in ministry here in Springfield, we sort of mobilized to be able to provide for those folks. But at some point, somebody has to step up and say, guys, this is not all compassionate. The
Yes.
compassionate posture, the what would Jesus do question has to be answered with both parties in mind.
Yes.
And that's just simply not happening.
I could not agree with you more. And that is the problem in the world is we have the flashy 30,000 foot view from the media of what compassion is, and then you have the people that are on the ground actually trying to deal with it, and it just breaks my heart. And this is rules matter. My dad always used to say we're not a country of the whim of people. We're built on laws, and we have laws for a reason. It's to keep us confined. It's to keep us, and not confined in a bad way, but confined in safety. And rules matter, and the rule of law matters. And it is just proof that we are seeing in real time what this administration is doing is actually harming communities, not advancing them. And this is just my little bit of conspiracy. I mean, this is, I think this is what they want. They want to create chaos and carnage so that there's the system's overwhelmed, right? I don't, maybe I'm wrong there, but that's what it seems like to me.
So I don't think I would disagree with you at all. I mean, in one sense, I mean, the immigrants that are coming here are certainly responsible for their own behavior. So I would not want to let them off the hook from a moral standpoint. But the reality is, I think they are a cog in the machine of something much bigger. What I'm not some kind of a investigative journalist doing an expose, but if I wanted to encourage journalists to go do some hard work, follow the money. The questions that keep coming up in the city council meetings are, who is bringing these people in?
Yes.
Where is all of this money that they're getting coming from?
Yes.
Why are there so many Haitian families who have housing that now is the rents are going up, the housing costs are going up, and it's the people that it's hurting the most are the ones who are the most vulnerable. It is
Yes.
hurting the poor in Springfield. And I can't help but remind people what Isaiah actually says about oppression. I mean, the left will oftentimes want to say, "Oh, we don't want to be oppressive to the immigrant. We have to be welcoming to the stranger and to the alien and all of that." And yes, and amen. But notice, I want to read a scripture real quick. Notice how Isaiah describes oppression. He says, "Woe to those who make unjust laws, to those who issue oppressive decrees, to deprive the poor of their rights and withhold justice from the oppressed of my people." So notice who he is putting the blame on there. He's pointing at the political leaders. He is pointing at the elites and the moneyed interests involved. And I got to be honest with you, brother, if I'm going to point at a villain in this story, it is them. And I think they are in. I mean, again, this is a bit conspiratorial in my head, and I don't, I
I know.
reserve the
I
right
get
to,
it.
I
It
reserve the right to
happens.
change my mind if there's more evidence. But right now, it looks very much like the political class is
Yes.
trying to dispossess many of the locals, and in the process, create chaos. And
Yes.
right now, we're seeing some increasing incivility and a complete breakdown in trust of a lot of folks. But I got to be honest with you, I'm really proud of the folks that I've talked to and the folks that I've seen here in Springfield. It has not turned into chaos. It has not This is not like BLM 2020 burning
Yeah.
cities. There's not riots and stuff like that. It is a lot of people who, though they are sick of being called racist and they're sick of being called bigots and anti-immigrant, they are still very much being kind to those. And I'm not sure how much longer it's going to be if the pressure keeps going up. And I don't want that. And I think it's incumbent upon those of us who are in the church to speak up. One of the things I have to remind pastors often is we are in the church and we are not in the state. Yes, there's a separate institution there, but we have what's called the prophetic voice. Go be like Isaiah and call them out. And we have
Yes.
too many pastors who just are afraid to do that. And I'm not some superhero courageous dude. I'm just watching it happen and going,
Yes.
time out.
You're in the room, so you're on the ground and you see it in real time, and so you're like, wait, there's this thing that's happening and it's a problem. It'd be like if we were out on the highway and you saw a semi coming towards me, you'd be like, Caleb, there's a semi, man. You get out of the road. I don't see a semi. Well, your back's turned to it. You don't see it. It's coming towards you. You need to get out of the road. You're sounding the alarm here. You're saying, listen, I'm in the ground on the ground here. I see what's happening. This is a problem and we need to it needs to be addressed immediately. So,
Absolutely right.
well, so how's the church plant going? We can switch gears for a minute and talk about church stuff. I'm a pastor, you're a pastor. We like, how's the church plant?
So we initially started thinking a little bit about doing the church plant in January and sort of just expressing, getting word out, hey, is anybody interested? And then once we figured out that there was some interest, we started trying to put some meetings together. Behind the scenes, I had some things I had to take care of from a ministerial sort of standpoint, and so we ended up having to pause just a little bit. And so over the course of the summer, we had some fellowship meetings, but we weren't really doing any sort of like on the ground church planting kind of things. So, and now that fall's kicking up, it looks like a lot of that stuff's clearing out, and so we're hoping to be able to hit the ground running again here soon. And
Love it. That's
yeah,
fantastic.
so one of the reasons that we decided to kind of push this direction is, I spent some time with Michael Foster, and he had a
Great
couple
guy.
of yeah, oh yeah, I love working with him. He had a conference a couple of years at his church called County Before Country,
Yes.
and basically what it was the concept behind it was to say, right now most evangelicals have zero voice in national politics and very little, if any, in state level politics. But what we're doing is we're not paying attention to local politics. We're basically neglecting that. And so we said, okay, what can the church do then to try to help gain a foothold with churches that are muscular and churches that are unembarrassed of the gospel, unashamed to proclaim Christ in the public square? We have a lot of churches, I think, that
Sure.
are willing to preach the gospel and to preach hard truths within the walls of our
Well,
churches,
yeah, in the
but
walls. Yeah.
yeah, but unwilling to go outside of that.
Right.
And so, in effect, what we're hoping to do is we're playing the long game here. And we're hoping that in 15, 20, 25 years, we have a robust church with, healthy families, with, family businesses, with people who have influence in the community that can seek to make our city a more godly place. And I remember talking to a friend of mine who said, I love the concept. I love the idea. I think it can work. I've seen it work in different cities. The problem is if you neglect national politics will invade your space at some point. And so when this immigration issue came up, he was exactly right. He was prophetic in that
Spot on.
sense.
There it is. Yeah. Yeah.
So we're still in the same boat in the sense that we don't have, the tools to go to DC and change things. We just
Right.
don't. I mean, we just saw that with Trump walking leftward on the question of abortion. It's like,
Yep.
okay,
Yep.
we don't even our sort of premier issue for decades has been that, and we can't even push him in that direction.
Yes.
So that continues to highlight our ineffectiveness in DC, but it does, I think, reinforce our need to be able to have a robust presence at the local level, at the local city level.
Yes.
Because if you have influence with the sheriff, if you have influence with local businesses, if you have influence with local political leaders, there's a lot of things you can do to disrupt a move like this. we may not have near the pockets that are pushing a lot of this, but I do think we can create, a little sphere where we say, okay, this is ours, this is our tiny little hill, but we're going to do what we can to defend it. And I just want to communicate to as many pastors as possible, be working to teach your people about immigration. So, so that they don't get manipulated. I mean, one of the things that I have seen is that the American church has just been played over and over and over again on this question of immigration. And I find it ironic. The left never wants to talk about the Old Testament laws until we hit the issue of immigration. Then it's like, wait a second, welcome the immigrant. And it's like,
Yeah,
okay,
right.
what about all
Exactly.
of those other things that you ignore in
Yep.
the Old Testament?
Yep. Yep.
It's frustrating to me. So I'm encouraging pastors to think, what can we do if it happens in our town? How
Yes.
can we how can we create a robust sort of defense against this?
Love it.
And that starts with teaching. And I
Yes.
think we are not doing a good job of teaching people what the Bible actually has to say about immigration and give them a clearer picture of saying there's nothing wrong with you wanting to build a culture and to protect that culture.
Love it.
And when 20,000 people from another culture comes in, yes, they're image bearers. Yes, they are to be treated like our neighbors in the same way
Yes.
that the Good Samaritan is supposed to be treated like our
100%.
neighbor. But the fact of the matter is, protecting our culture is a good and valid thing that, unfortunately, I think we've lost an immune system in
We
American
have.
Christianity.
I always think about the concept of our homes, or like my house. I have a lock on my door for a reason. I shut up and lock my house up at night for a reason. We have boundaries of our dwelling places for a reason. And if someone attempts to come through my dwelling in my house, I have the right, where I live, I have the right to stand what's called stand my ground. And if somebody tries to forcibly enter my home, I can take care of that issue by force, and the law is on my side about that. And this is what we need to be doing is in thinking about from immigration and the border. This is our home. This is where our children are, our grandchildren are. And if we're not careful, we're going to lose that, and it's going to impact not maybe well, it's not going to be my generation, maybe it's your grandkids. Think about your grandkids or your great grandkids. That is going to be a problem, but I really do believe it's going to be a problem within our lifetime. So
Oh, I was interviewed a couple days ago, and I said I think that immigration will continue to be the primary issue for my lifetime. I don't see how we're turning this around in the next few years, but I do think, the point that you made about the father protecting his home is a valid one. For some reason, we have forgotten in evangelicalism that our loves need to be ordered properly, right? So Caleb, I would say, as a brother in Christ, I'm going to love you like a brother in Christ, but
yes,
I'm not going to love you in the same way that I love my biological brother who
yes,
lives,
100%,
with me, right? And I'm going to love my wife very differently and my
yes,
kids very differently than other kids. And
100%.
that sort of ordered loves is something that we've sort of forgotten about. We've just tried to, I mean, we live in egalitarian times, and so we just squash everything. And it is appropriate for me to love the neighbor that I live next to more than the neighbor across the world. Now, if they're a brother in Christ across the world, then that bonds us in a unique way. But this is where I think we have forgotten that part of what we do as humans, as Christians, is culture building, and being able to build a culture that is godly, that is designed for our good and for our well-being, is something that the Bible it doesn't just say it's okay to do. It's our impetus. It's what the cultural mandate is all about.
$100%
The
agree. Yes,
command in Genesis to go and be fruitful and subdue the
yes.
earth, and yeah. And for some reason, we've just forgotten that that is a good thing that we have a right to protect, but it's also a duty by God to protect. And we're just not doing a good job at it here.
Well, I love it, man. That you're spot on. Thank you. I mean, I just thank you for taking time to come share this. And this is the reason I'm doing these kind of podcasts. I've been doing local, like our city council guys, having them come in and have conversations about what's happening locally, because I do believe local is important. But I wanted to have you on the show just to talk about what you're seeing locally, and it does matter, because eventually what's happening in Ohio is going to come to Oklahoma, or it's going to come to Kansas, or it's going to come. We need to be focused on these things, and we need to be prepared, not worried, not freaking out, not scared, but prepared. And this is where the church can actually be the church, because everybody likes to use that buzzword. We need to be the church. Okay, well, yeah, now we need to know how to do that, right? So this is the idea. So thank you for sharing the insights and the principles on what this looks like, and sounding the alarm. We need more alarm sounders. So thank you so very much for sharing this. Would you dismiss us in prayer?
Absolutely. I appreciate it. Father in heaven, thank you so much just for the chance to share and to be able to have this discussion that we are encountering, and to do so, Lord, with a desire to honor you, to be faithful to your word, and to be compassionate to our neighbors. But Lord, it takes wisdom. It takes a depth of knowledge and understanding to be able to do this well. And so, Father, help us as the church to grow stronger. Help us to be reminded that it begins with prayer, it begins with true worship, and it begins with seeking to honor you with our hands and feet. And so, Father, we invite your Holy Spirit to lead us and guide us, and we pray that you would glorify yourself through our lives. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. So, hey, if anybody wants to get in touch with you to try to help in any way, how do they get in touch with you?
Social media is probably the best. I'm on Facebook, so
Yep.
you can BJ Newman on Facebook, and then I'm also on X,
Yeah.
and my handle is Newman_BJ. So you can just connect with me there.
Fantastic. I'll put everything in the show notes. But thanks again for being a part of the program and sharing your heart.
All right, thank you.